What just happened? Oklahoma, well, we know what happened. Oklahoma loses to Kansas, final score 33-38. But this was a very, very weird game. A very weird game. You don't excuse it for Oklahoma. You don't say, oh, that's okay, weird game. There's a lot still to play for if you're Oklahoma. In fact, I think you still have everything to play for if you're Oklahoma. But a loss like this, we got to kind of look under the hood and we got to take an assessment of what happened for the Sooners. You don't take anything away from Kansas. They played phenomenal. Lance Leipold's got tremendous buy-in. Jason Bean was slinging the bean all over the yard. Like, a lot to talk about with this game. But I think for Oklahoma, there's a lot we have to unpack with a game like this. So first things first, make sure you're subscribed. Oklahoma fans had a lot of y'all join the party recently. We got a lot to talk about with your Sooners here the rest of the way, so hit that subscribe button on this channel, and we will make sure we continue this conversation going forward together. Also, follow me on Twitter and on the gram at JDPikel. Appreciate y'all for that. So the million-dollar question, maybe even multi-million-dollar question, what went wrong yesterday for Oklahoma? Because you had this offense that was really potent, you had a defense playing really well, and then you roll into Kansas, and it just felt like nothing ever really totally clicked. It just felt like a machine that continued to sputter. Offensively, there's probably a lot more to unpack within this game for Oklahoma. From what I saw, I thought Kansas played really well in the perimeter against Oklahoma. And when I say when I say played really well, I think from a game plan standpoint, Kansas went in and said, we're going to be physical on the perimeter with these Oklahoma playmakers. And Oklahoma, we know this about them. The way that they thrive is getting into a rhythm. And the way that they get into a rhythm, a lot of the time, is that short to intermediate pass game, attacking the perimeter, getting Dillon Gabriel rolling. And yes, the weather probably had something to do with it. But the way that they continue to stay in the grill of these Oklahoma wide receivers, I think ultimately ended up being the difference and kind of kept them from being able to have those easy access throws. They took that away. Now, you still ran the football all over the place, and you still scored 33 points. So if you're Oklahoma, the turnovers, you can't have those, and that's obvious. The pick six kills you if you're Oklahoma. But if you were to say, okay, you're going to run for well over 200 yards, almost 300 yards actually, and you're going to score over 30 points, are you winning that football game? I would have told you yes. That would have been my feel. So the rhythm and the elements and all that just wasn't there. But again, the offense, it's hard to be too upset when you score 33. I know there's some issues today with Jeff Lebby and the way that he operated at the end of the game. Bottom line, I think outside of those turnovers, there were some things there to hang your hat on that you could have said, hey, we should win this football game. Now, defensively, I thought the Kansas offense did a great job kind of taking assessment of what previous teams did well against Oklahoma and the way that they had success. And we've talked about it a lot on this show. Oklahoma, who they are defensively, is aggressive. They're aggressive. They're versatile in their look. They're going to give you a lot of confusion pre-snap and try and get after your quarterback. And the best way to get them off balance is to give them some misdirection, to give them some pre-snap movement to kind of mess with their eyes. Whenever they did that, it felt like Kansas was able to gash them to a degree. Now, I'm kind of, again, going back to the weird game thing. Kansas scored 38. One of those was a pick six. Even so, Oklahoma created 3 turnovers. That should be good enough to win. But the problem is the offense turned the ball over 3 times. So, again, weird game in the most emphatic way possible. And there's going to be a lot of people here today that say, not here, but I mean today in the college football world, saying, Oklahoma, hey, they're exposed. Oklahoma, they were always fake. Oklahoma this, Oklahoma that. I never bought stock in Oklahoma. Ha. That's what people are going to say. Now, what I would tell you today is I don't actually think anything different of Oklahoma. Because what we saw yesterday was a little bit more, what's the right word? It was a little bit less effective of a situation for Oklahoma than what we saw against UCF, but it was kind of that same formula, if you will. So what's more likely? Is it more likely that the game against Texas and the big win for Oklahoma in Red River was just fake, and that was a product of the environment, and that was a product of Dillon Gabriel having the game of his life, and they just played out of their mind, over their heads? That was how they beat Texas. That was actually fake. Or, I don't know, is it more likely that we see a team that was 6-7 last year with a first-time head coach in his second season trying to figure out how to win, and went on the road and played in a tough game and had there's a lot of excuses here you could build in, but at the end of the day, I think you point to Oklahoma and say they still are figuring out how to win, how to bring their best every single week, how to adjust. Like what we saw yesterday, they didn't have plan A with getting into rhythm with what they had in the pass game. So you had to adjust. And they adjusted to a degree, but still, you can't have those turnovers. You can't have those critical plays that keep you from accomplishing what you wanted to accomplish in this football game, which is ultimately winning. They're still learning how to win. They're still learning, I think, multiple ways how to win when it comes to this Oklahoma team. I think they've learned how to turn it on, has Oklahoma. I think they need to unlearn how to turn it off, which sounds simplistic. It sounds like coach speak or whatever, but like what I'm trying to say is college football, and we've said this on other platforms and other videos, it's not built for you to play your best every single week. Joel Klatt said this on his podcast, and I 1,000,000% agree. You don't have to play your very best when you play FCS Southwest. But you better play your best because you have to be able to play your best when you play teams like Kansas, when you play teams like Texas. It requires your best every single week to be able to have that internal temperature set to competing for what you want to compete for, which is ultimately a Big 12 title and a college football playoff berth. Here's the good news for Oklahoma today. None of those things, in my opinion, are off the table. You have the one loss, that hurts. You wish you didn't have the one loss, but you are 1,000,000% now in fight or flight mode. Tell you what, if you're a Big 12 conference champ and you beat Texas for the second time, and Texas at that point you would imagine is somewhere around a top 5, at the very least a top 10 team, I think there's going to be enough chaos across the board to where Oklahoma with a one loss gets in to the college football playoff. Handle business. Yeah, it hurts, but this can be exactly the wake-up call that you need to go and do what you wanted to do at the beginning of the season. The question is, if you're Brent Venables to the rest of your locker room, now do you believe me? Now, I don't know this for a fact, but you would have to imagine there was some version communicated after the game against UCF. Hey, boys, if we don't bring it, if we play how we did today, different points during that game, we're going to get a loss. Now, I don't think he said it quite as blatantly as that, but there had to be some sort of conversation of like, hey, we have to bring it every week. I don't care if it's Kansas. I don't care if it's UCF. I don't care if it's Texas. We have to bring it every week. And that's a part of, again, learning how to win as a football team and as a staff that's in their second year. It takes every single game. Every single game. So, for Oklahoma now, there's no time to lick their wounds. You're at Oklahoma State next week. Rivalry game. You delete all logic and common sense from picking that game. You just kind of walk in, look at the matchups, and do your best to assess where both teams are at. Again, fight or flight mode now for Oklahoma. Your mulligan is gone. I think you had a mulligan, to be real. I really do, but they got to be able to play a little bit cleaner, a lot of bit cleaner, and be able to be a little bit more sound as a defense. You want to stay aggressive, but you can't be aggressive to the detriment of giving up those big plays. We saw it a lot last year. We've seen it less this year, but again, learning how to win, learning how to bring it every single week, have some counter punches when you don't have the fastball, like they did yesterday with the run game. Oklahoma, I think, is going to be fine. But now, like I said, mulligan's gone, fight or flight. What do you do to respond? I can't wait to see. Make sure you're subscribed. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at JD Piquel. Hey, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.